about that time. Let's slap on some heads. Get that butt back upstairs. Get out of here. All right, finally got time to do the heads. The heads are right here. I'm gonna take them out, put them on my bench, and start taking this engine apart. I just got back from Harbor Freight too. I had to pick up a new torque wrench. I also got a creeper, just some little stuff like magnets and, you know, little stuff. Got some nitrile gloves because nobody has my size, XXL baby. I got meat hooks, meat hooks. Those will fit. Icon torque wrench. It's like their high-end brand. Now, I would never go to Harbor Freight for like construction tools, but some of this stuff's pretty good. Nice creeper and a fluid catcher, you know, funnels, and a bunch of heavy stuff I probably never use, but get it anyways. This will not be an install video. This will be more like a progression video because it'll take me 2 weeks. I'm not doing it. Take your intake off, and once I get the valve covers off, or maybe I'll turn the camera back on because it's all pretty simple. Just a bunch of bolts. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. All right, let's get started. All right, intake's off. I finally snapped the clip on the fuel line. That thing's been on and off about 50 times. Finally weakened out. You don't have to replace them. All you do is snap it back up. It ain't going anywhere once it's on. I know a lot of people freak out when those snap. And the ones that snap on these two, they're just safety clips. I think I have one snapped on my fuel injector somewhere. Whatever. Ready to take off the intake manifold. And I'm looking over here, I'm like, why is this spliced? I have a coupling in here. That's where I had the Pro Charger vacuum tree hooked up. Just kind of refresh my memory. Been a while. All right, let's take this manifold off. I'm gonna take the valve covers off. And yeah, take the valve covers off and pop the heads off. If anybody else does this, I do it because I get bombarded with a lot of phone calls and neighbors and my wife. I have a kid, so a lot going on. Take pictures before you start taking stuff apart. Just, you know where vacuum lines go, you know where plugs go, bolts. Take a picture of bolts if you have to. You know, if you're new at this. It's been a while for me anyways. I haven't wrenched like this. I haven't dug into a motor in a long time. You know, I help Roji once in a while, but this is my first time doing it myself. So taking pictures does help. Helps huge. You're like, oh, you got 3 plugs here. Where does this one go? Let's go look at my pictures. You know what I mean? Just helping out, man. Don't get mad. Just helping out. Let's do this. All right, intake is off. I'm gonna drain the coolant system. I got a new Melodian 160 thermostat going back in because this one's been in and out a few times, and I don't want to risk, you know, doing all this work. What's 25 bucks? You know what I mean? For a new one of those in. And I'm gonna drain the oil as well because I have an oil change coming up anyways, and it's just easier. And so let me do all that first. All right, while the coolant's dripping, emptying the radiator a little bit. Come over here and take a look at these beautiful little heads from BES. It's just nice to look at them once in a while. I gotta swap the springs over too from my heads, but so I got the HPT cam kit in there. Nice. I don't know if anybody else does this. Well, this fluid, I think it was new last time me and Roji did the cam, but it's clean. Like Johnny O'Malley said from Boosted Motorsports, you know, if it's clean, keep it and reuse it. You know what I mean? Save a couple bucks. It's mint. You get a nice clean container to put it in. You can reuse it. Yeah, buddy. All right, valve cover number 1 off. Bank 2, right side. Looks good. Let's do the right side. Man, that was a pain in my nut bag. That back screw, hard to get to. That was almost as worse as doing spark plugs. That sucked. I dropped like 3 bolts from that thing. I gotta get my magnet out and find them. That sucked. That was a pain. All right. Valve covers are off. This side was tough just because the brake booster's in the way. And if you've done spark plugs in these, you know that brake booster is just in the way. It's always in the way. But they're off. I'm gonna start taking the head bolts off. And let's start with the easy side. Bank 2, let's do it. I forgot about the manifolds. I was getting all excited. I'm like, the heads are coming off. Yeah. I gotta disconnect these manifold flange bolts before I take the heads off. That's easy. I had to take the fender liner out. And, you know, take my wheels off. Gotta run jack stands. All right, manifold exhaust, manifold flange bolts are cut. Rockers are off. Push rods are out. And she's ready to come out. So let's take her run out nice and careful like. I'm dying to see what the pistons are gonna look like. It's always interesting. Let's see how the pistons look. It doesn't help having an octopus of wires around you when you're taking this stuff out at all. Thank God for my thermo grip. Whew. Doesn't help having friggin' cast manifolds on either. All right, heads off. It's a little heavier with these. These are like 40 pounds, not a big deal, but that extra 8 pounds or whatever just doesn't help, especially when you get an octopus of wires around you. Gasket came off nice and easy. Just gotta do some cleaning here. Make sure the surface is nice and clean before we put the new head gaskets on. Let's do the other side. Left side's off. Bank one, head's off. Had Vern come over, give me a hand. He's admin over at TunedRAMS as well. And he helped me out, so that was, anything on this side's a pain in the ass. Everything. That was the booster. But he gave me a hand, took that off, so that's sweet. Heads are off. And we're gonna swap out the springs. I like to set things up like this so I make sure it goes back the way it came off, which is smart. Same with the rockers. All right, I got the old head, new head. I'm gonna swap the springs out, take the manifold off. I'm gonna check these with the caliper to see how much porting we did get on the intake and exhaust ports. So new valves from BES are seated down a little bit. They have an angle job. Vern was just noticing how deep, further down these are versus the stock. That lip right there. Let more air in. But I'm glad these heads are off. We got two bolts that just don't want to come out. Two of them. We're gonna have to grind them off. Fun, fun. Grind off two heads to get it out, drill them out. Pain in the nuts. That one. Vicious, vicious. We got one more on this one. They've all come out so far. Little PB blast, little torch action. You know, remove the studs. Of course, we don't have a grinder here, so sawzall. Cut the head off. Throw the head away. Drill out the bolt a little bit, and it comes right off. And get a pair of vice grips, and it comes right out. All right, drilled it out. Bam! And a pair of vice grips. Because steel does not bond to aluminum very well, does it? Thank God. Thank God. All right, that's it. That's the biggest pain so far. Manifold bolts. Bam. Lunchtime, baby. We're gonna get some food. You get an extra mask? If not, I got one. Manifolds are off. Well, yeah, would have been a pain if they were still on the motor. Much easier on the bench, way easier. Now I'm gonna swap the springs after we get some food and manja. All right, got a couple of valves off. Taking the HPT cam kit with the shim, the springs and the clip and the guides. Not the guides, the keepers. Let's swap them one at a time so I don't screw anything up. This is the BES head, the old head. All right, HPT springs that came with the kit. Retainer, keepers, This one's done. One down. One to go. Keepers come off. Spring comes off. Shim. I'm gonna wash it down below so the springs don't kill the heads. Fine. Repeat these onto here. All right, heads are done. They're going back to the BES so they can give them to somebody else. That's it. For a refund back. Here they are. All set up with the HPT cam kit, springs, shims, and I got the push rods, but that'll be later on. So I'm just taking out the old spark plugs off the old heads. I'm gonna install the new ones onto the new heads. Bam. Bam. This mag is strong. Got this from Harbor Freight too. Look how easy these come out. Look at this. All right, spark plugs are in. 6619's gap to 0.044. I got the gaskets on. These are OEM 6.1 gaskets from Mopai. I'm gonna bolt the long tube headers on. These are ARH long tube headers, 1.75 inch. And a lot of you guys said, you know, bolt them onto the heads. A lot of you said bolt them onto the heads, and then they should fit right in, so I don't have to do it later to the wheel wells. You guys better be right, because if you're wrong, I'm gonna crawl through the phone and slap every one of you in the face. Sticking a little tiny bit of anti-seize on these header bolts. A little tiny bit. All right, header number 1 is on. Bank 1 head. I'm gonna slap this one on next. All right, both headers are on the heads. They look nice when they're new, don't they? Whew. They really are sexy headers. ARH. Beautiful when they're new. This is my second set. When they start getting old and it's wear and tear and road grind, they do kind of get way darker, almost like a brown. But they're heavy duty, and they do very well quality welds. I should have showed you the mouth, the opening on the header. When you look inside, they do an excellent job welding. They really clean it. Not like JBA, they leave the welds that can cause restriction. They clean these things out nice on the inside. So there you go. We're gonna put these on right now. I gotta clean the deck off with a scour pad, clean it up, and start throwing the heads on. I gotta drop the stock wire pipe as well. So that's the next step. All right, just making sure everything's getting done correctly. Addie's working on the hubs. Yeah, get those hubs replaced. You got 10 more minutes. No overtime for you, kid. All right. Time to cut the wire. All right, wide band's disconnected. O2 sensors are disconnected. Drop this wide pipe. All right, clean both sides of the decks. I get this gasket on. Mopai gasket, Mopai head gasket. And go ahead and slap the head on. All right, I was up in the engine. Had my foot on top of the strut tower. My knee right here, bending over, throwing this thing in. And it wouldn't seat on the pins. And I'm like, why? Well, this is decked. Okay, here's the pinhole. It's got a lip because it's decked. A little tiny lip I gotta file out, clean out. So it's not their fault, it's my fault. I should have checked that before I went to go climb up Mount Everest and drop this thing on. All right, so that's what I gotta do. I clean this out, get the burrs out, and we'll be good. All right, got the Dremel, clean them out a little bit. Got the wire wheel, little baby wire wheel. Yes! Pinch my damn finger too, but it's on. I'll take a pinched finger over that. That was the third time. Third time. Third time. I left the timing cover on, which makes it a little more difficult, but there's a bushing right here for the bolt for the alternator. It was in the way for some reason. I gave it a little tap, about a 16th. Went right on. That's gonna be a blood blister right there. That got me good, bastard. Bank 2 is in. That literally took 8 seconds. I put it up here. I actually sat down right here, bent over, put it in. Bink, sat like a baby. All right, they're on. They're both on. And I'm gonna start. Well, I gotta move the dipstick over here a little bit and play with the cable wire first, but after that, I'm gonna start putting the bolts in and doing the torque sequence.